You are listening to Unravel with Natalie Denise.
Oh, buddy, what's going on? How are you all? I hope this doesn't lag. Is it lagging? Test 1, 2, 3. Okay, looks like it's working. What's going on, guys? Welcome to Nightly with Natalie, a segment of Unravel with Natalie Denise, where I give you guys the daily headlines, both in the mainstream as well as in trafficking. So let's start off with this. By the way, I'm switching my thumbnails. I think I'm going to kind of spice it up from now on, make some new thumbnails. Hopefully, that'll look like a creative little difference, I guess. What's going on, Christina? Keem? What's going on, Mark? What's going on, Joni from One's Purpose? Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate your support. My camera kind of like I had to adjust my camera. I think I have to get a booster seat so I can reach the camera a little higher because I'm always like down here. So what's up, Ken? Okay, so let's get into it. So I made a video on this earlier on Ukraine versus Russia, also Taiwan and China. It looks to be like things are really actually ramping up over there. We are looking to face some sort of war, or this could be biblical prophecy. It could be biblical prophecy. You guys know that prophecy on rumors of war. Let's actually look that up. That's actually rumors of war scripture. I think that's in the book of Daniel. Matthew. Here we go. Matthew 24:6. My bad. So sorry. Matthew 20. Let's just go to Matthew. Matthew 24. Matthew 24. Matthew 24. Come on. Matthew 24. We're going to read through scripture because it might be that this is just a rumor of war, and it kind of points to it being here we go. All right. Here we go. We're going to get to it. Let's actually go through scripture first. Let's start off our podcast with scripture. That sounds really nice, doesn't it? Let's actually start off with this. So Jesus left the temple and was walking away, and his disciples came up to him, called his attention to its buildings. Do you see all these things? He said, truly, I tell you, not one stone here will be let on another. Everyone will be thrown down. As Jesus was sitting down at the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately and said, tell us, they said, when will this happen? What will be the sign of your coming and the end of age? Jesus answered, watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and I will deceive many. You will hear the wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Then you will be handed over to the persecuted and put to death. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. At that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many people because of the increase of wickedness. The love of most will grow cold. But the one who stands firm to the end, will be saved. And this is the gospel of the kingdom that will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations. And then the end will come. So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through and the prophet of Daniel, spoken through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. I knew there was a Daniel somewhere. Let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one at the housetop go down and take anything out the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on Sabbath, for there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never be equaled again. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. At that time, if anyone says to you, look, there is the Messiah, or there he is, do not believe it. Or for false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you ahead of time. So if anyone tells you he is out in the wilderness, do not go out. Here he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever there is a carcass, there will be vultures that will gather. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give light. The stars will fall from the sky and the heavenly bodies will shaken. The day and the hour is unknown. There will be a sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then I jumped ahead, and all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, and he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from four winds, from one end to the heavens to the other. Now learn this lesson from a fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and leaves come out, you will know summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you'll know that it is near, right at the door. Truly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words never pass away. And then it goes into the day will not be known. But let's go back to here. Jesus answered, watch out that no one deceives you. Oops, let's go a little bit here. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Okay, so what does that mean? You know, to you guys, this is essentially birthing pains. Now the question is, will there be a great harvest before this happens? Because the hour is unknown. There are rumors of wars. Nations are going against nations right now. We'll see. And we don't know if these are just rumors right now. They've definitely with Ukraine and Russia, they have definitely kind of pointed to this for a while. Last year we saw the start of this when Russia started sending troops to the border. So this is something that we foresaw was going to happen. Now we see that things are actually coming to fruition. And the United States has entered the chat. Biden has really gaffed himself into a green light with Russia. I explained all of this in my video. So if you're interested in that, go to my main page, youtube.com/Natalie Denise, and you will see there a full explanation. But anyway, let's get to the news because there's a lot to go through. All right. Actually, I'm going to go through this first. Speaking of the war, impending war. So I went through a lot of details about Ukraine and Russia, but I'm just going to go a little bit about Germany and how they play into this. Germany has betrayed Ukraine by banning weapon exports and supporting the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline with Russia. Kiev Mayor Vitaly Klitschko declares. Vitaly Klitschko is an ex-world heavyweight boxing champion and mayor of Kiev. He has railed against Germany for its failure to provide assistance to Ukraine. It comes as fears of potential Russian invasion of the Ukraine reaching boiling point. NATO declared today it would beef up reinforcements in Eastern Europe. Russia, meanwhile, has accused NATO and the West of escalating tensions. Klitschko, who is the mayor of Kiev, accused German authorities of betrayal and allowing Putin sympathizers to take control. So let's get into a little bit of this. The ex-heavyweight champ today contributed to a piece of German Daily Bild in which he slated that the German authorities for their failure to provide assistance and betrayal of friends as tensions reach boiling point amid fears that Russian invasion of Ukraine. Klitschko's scalding of the German government comes on the same day as NATO announced it was putting forces on standby and reinforcing Eastern Europe with more ships and fighter jets to prepare for a potential invasion. There is a huge disappointment in Ukraine that federal government is sticking to Nord Stream 2 that does not want to supply defense weapons, Klitschko wrote in the Bild. This failure to provide assistance and betrayal of friends in a dramatic situation in which our country is threatened by Russian troops from several borders. Germany has long refused to export arms to conflict zones and is declining Ukraine's appeals for weaponry despite the escalating tensions. Germany is also heavily dependent on Russia for supply of gas, with up to 40% of EU's nation's gas importing coming via Russian pipelines. So you guys understand that this is why Russia does not, oh gosh, it's lagging. Cheese and crackers. Oh, it's not. Okay, never mind. This is why Russia does not want Ukraine to sign up with NATO. So that's part of the conflict. Russia is trying to deter Ukraine from signing on with the EU, essentially NATO. And this is why NATO is building up forces, because the EU wants Ukraine eventually, but now they know, oh, this is probably not the time because it's so heated. But Russia has a lot of influence, a lot of exports, a lot of, their exports going out to the EU, and they want to have that stronghold. They want to have that influence. So if Ukraine signs with NATO, because Ukraine is at the center, it's like Russia, maybe it's right here, Russia, Ukraine, and then the EU, which is like the European nations, then Russia can have their stronghold to have their influence and their stance on what they already have exports and influence over. So that's essentially some form, but I just wanted to give a little bit of a sprinkle of some of these happenings in some geopolitics. Oh, great scripture reading. Thank you so much, Nomi Love. I appreciate it so much. Let's pivot on to the next story. Joe Biden today. My goodness, this man is so ghetto. Joe Biden is ghetto, y'all. Joe Biden called Peter Doocy from Fox News. He called him, well, he didn't call him anything. Well, yes, he did. He said he called him a stupid son of a bitch. A stupid son of a bitch. That's what he called him. Today, Peter Doocy asked a question about inflation. We're all worried about inflation, right? Because inflation is at 7%. It keeps going. Peter Doocy asked this question of Biden, and Biden on hot mic replied, what a stupid son of a bitch. Listen here.
Why are you saying 8,550 What are you saying? President Biden? Do you think inflation is a political line?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a.
It's so ghetto. Oh, this man is so ghetto. Y'all, Biden is so ghetto. He really is. So that's basically what it is. Peter Doocy says Biden called him after referring to him as a SOB and said, it's nothing personal, pal. Of course it's something personal, because you saw that there were other reporters that were essentially asking him questions as well. But because he asked a question, because he asked a question that actually it had a lot of relevance. I can't stand this. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. I'm always having a technical issue, I swear. All right. OBS, USB, film rates. Give me 1 second. Rational, simple, 30. Okay. Okay. We're back. Okay. I knew that there was something that I could do. Test 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. All right, we're back. Okay, so Biden calls him after the fact, and he's basically like, it's nothing personal. Of course it's something personal. There were other reporters that were asking questions. They were throwing questions after the fact, and he decided to target Peter Doocy because Peter Doocy actually asks really good strategic questions all the time. I can't stand this camera. Hold on. My goodness. What is wrong with this? It always does this. I don't know why. Better? Better? Yes, it looks better. Okay. So anyway, this is what he had to say with Sean Hannity.
We have some news tonight. After years of clips of the president and I kind of mixing it up on the campaign trail and during the transition and here at the White House, within about an hour of that exchange, he called my cell phone and he said, "It's nothing personal, pal." And we went back and forth and we were talking about just kind of moving forward. And I made sure to tell him that I'm always going to try to ask something different than what everybody else is asking. And he said, "You've got to." And that's a quote from the president. So I'll keep doing it.
All right, I want to be your negotiator here. And I would like to negotiate a 20-minute sit down with you and Biden one-on-one. I think that would be, I'm a Christian. I believe in forgiveness. Okay. Did he apologize?
He cleared the air and I appreciated it. We had a nice call.
That's not an answer. Did he apologize? That doesn't sound like an apology.
He said it's nothing personal, pal. And I told him that I appreciated him reaching out. Hey, John, the world is on the brink of like World War III right now with all this stuff going on. I appreciate that the president took a couple minutes out this evening while he was still at the desk to give me a call and clear the air.
At least he called you pal.
But you know what? I don't need anybody to apologize to me. He can call me whatever he wants.
As long as he can ask whatever questions he wants, is what he wanted to say. No, man. Well, I mean, at least he's being a good sport about it. I think he does have to stay diplomatic. I think Peter Doocy's position is pretty unique, given that, not everybody has a unique position to ask questions, even as difficult as he is towards the resident administration. He's in a unique position that he can actually do that. So, I know it's a hard thing to say, but as a journalist, as a reporter, you have to, even as hard as it is, you have to keep your position, not necessarily by I'm not going to say by folding, because I don't think he's folding, but it's better to have a platform where you can talk about these things rather than not at all, if that makes any sense. Choo-choo, man. Our resident in chief is so ghetto. He is so ghetto, I'm telling you. All right. So anyway, we don't have to go through all that because that's basically the gist of the story. We're going to pivot on. So this is actually, okay. So if you are a parent out there and you have a child who has a smartphone and they're active on this smartphone, please beware of what is going on. Apparently there is a trend on TikTok. Inside the eerie rise of WitchTok, as TikTokers share spells to hex cheating exes. I mean, I would even argue. Let me actually, I wonder if there is something that I can just pull up really quick on the TikTokas. But from what I've read somewhere else, and I should have covered this when I did read it. What I've read somewhere else is this is more than just spells for exes and all these things, but yeah, this is definitely not a realm you want your children on or you want them groomed into, because essentially this, TikTok can be used as a grooming device into things that are more than just sexual. It can be grooming into things like this that are, witchcraft. You don't want your kids going into that, right? So let's take a look at this. This is coming from the New York Post. Here's a look inside the eerie rise of WitchTok as TikTokers across the globe are sharing spells to hex their cheating exes and promote a cult to millions. Fans of WitchTok, which is the name of the group on the app, are into witchcraft and all that entails: magic, spells, manifestations, and other related activity associated with witches. Videos shared on TikTok community and accompanied with WitchTok have obtained more than 23 billion views. billion. WitchTok gained popularity back in April of 2021 as the author with the Financial Times said that the hashtag surpassed hashtag Biden by more than 2 billion views. This is bad, guys. This is really bad. Now TikTok witches are sharing spells online and promoting their supposed magic across the internet. TikTok user The Muses recently took the app to share a video with text reading, "Aunties, my bully got hit by a car." The footage was accompanied by OMC's How Bizarre song, and the TikTok post was captioned, "Strange how stuff like this happens. Hashtag The Muses, aunties of TikTok, LGBT WitchTok." Okay. I'm going to look. Okay. Do you guys want to see this video? This is not good at all. All witchcraft is bad. Sorry. Don't mean to offend everybody, but all witchcraft is bad. I don't jive with it. No. I don't even do horoscopes. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I don't want it. I don't want it. This is an example of what's on there. Just FYI. Whoops. Why is it not playing? Why are you not playing? Okay, well, it doesn't want me to play. It doesn't want me to play it. So I guess that does it. Yeah, okay. Okay. I feel like okay, yeah, no. I don't want it. 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 Okay. Okay. Oh. That's scary. I don't like it. All right. Let's pivot on. So we're going to go ahead and hit this story up right here. So this is a story. Hugh Hefner's son, Cooper, has to defend the late Playboy mogul after ex-girlfriends accused him of grooming compared to the mansion to a cult, as he insists salacious stories are regret becoming revenge. So I guess we can kind of pivot to the Daily Traffic, where I bring you guys the latest in human trafficking news. This is definitely one of those stories that we kind of want to, because this is a tale of people that come from money, that influence, that groom, that entice, love bomb victims into their honey trap, essentially. But Hugh Hefner's son, Cooper, defends the late Playboy mogul after ex-girlfriends accused him of grooming and compared mansion to a cult, as he insists the salacious stories are regret becoming revenge. So this is Cooper. This is Hugh Hefner's son. And let me give you a little bit of backstory. So there's been some prior playmates who have recently come out with their own type of stories. Like, I know Holly, I think her name is Holly Madison. She's come out with a memoir, kind of spills the tea on, essentially the woes of the mansion and, the things she was pressured into, things of that nature. And so this has raised a lot of wow, because I think if you're at least a millennial or older, like me, you kind of grew up in this environment where you watched these reality shows, right? You watched The Real World with MTV. We watched this. I watched this show on E. Yeah, sorry, I did. I watched this show on E because it was just fascinating to me, like what the lives of the rich and famous actually lived like. And I was actually intrigued by this show, that how is it that this could be this is reality TV. But this is what attracts a lot of people. A lot of people get attracted to the clout and attention that these big people could possibly leverage and platform them with. But it comes with a price. And that's where a lot of this regret comes from, why these ex-playmates are creating these memoirs and basically spilling the tea on what it really was. Because now with the, I hate to attribute it to the Me Too movement, but really the Me Too movement did some good, let's be honest. Now people are more open about sharing their abuse stories, sharing, the deep, dark details of things that lured them into the dark world. And so I feel like more people who have gone through that feel more comfortable coming out with these stories. So Cooper Hefner has spoken out. This is coming from the Daily Mail. Cooper Hefner has spoken out to defend his late father, Hugh Hefner, after the Playboy's founder's former girlfriends came forward to accuse him of grooming them, drugging them, and running a cult-like atmosphere at his mansion. Now, I just also want to state that it's more than just the girlfriends. There have been staff that have come out and talked about this, how they've had to tactfully order prescription drug. I think Quaaludes. I think that was what I read. I think actually I covered it with you guys here, but they would order Quaaludes strategically through prescriptions, and they would put it on a calendar like, oh, this prescription used it this day, this person's prescription used it that day, so that way they could, get it refilled, something like that. The 30-year-old Playboy took their the 30-year-old Playboy took to Twitter. I don't know why I can't say that. The Playboy heir took to Twitter to clap back at the salacious stories about his father just one day before the January 24th premiere of A&E's docuseries Secrets of Playboy, though he didn't name the show or network. I might have to tune into that. That might be a good binge. Some may not approve of the life my dad chose, but my father was not a liar, he wrote. However unconventional, he was sincere in his approach and lived honestly. I don't believe that. Come on. I don't believe it. You guys think that Hugh Hefner lived honestly? Be honest. No pun intended. Be honest. Do you guys think that Hugh Hefner lived honestly? Truthfully? I don't think so. I don't think so. The Paris Hilton show. Yes, I watched the Paris Hilton. I watched the what was it? What was that with Lionel Richie's daughter? What is it? What is it? What is it? What is it? What is that show? What is that? The something life. I forget. I watched that show too. But anyway, you guys think that Hugh Hefner lived honestly? I don't think so. So that's what his son is claiming. He said he was generous in nature, cared deeply for people. These salacious stories are a case study of regret becoming revenge. Excuse me, Cooper, sir. I don't think so. I don't think look, when when you have staff that is strategically ordering Quaaludes so that way you could drug your playmates, very strategically, I really don't think that that's honest, and I really don't think that that's clean. But pop off. I mean, this is Hugh Hefner through the years. This is his tweet right here. Secrets of Playboy. Again, this is on A&E. Promises to lift the lid on the dark underbelly of Playboy and how its venues became a seedy playground for drug use, sexual abuse, and even bestiality. Okay, yikes. There's also one story that I kind of want to get into. There was a playmate back, I believe, in the 60s or 70s that actually, I think, okay, this is really dark, graphic content. Be advised, caution. But this playmate actually committed suicide, I want to say. And before she did, she drew like a pentagram or something like that. And she in her, I think it was like her suicide note, she talked about Hugh Hefner. I'm just paraphrasing here. There's like bits and nuggets that I know about, but I'm going to have to dive into that story. But anyway, it just makes me wonder, because it sounds like I'm not going to go off the deep end and say that this is SRA, but I'm just saying there are components that sound like it. SRA is satanic ritual abuse. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that this is it. I'm just saying there are components that sound like it, because they're conjoined. The 10-part series features exclusive interviews with insiders, including Hugh's ex-girlfriend Sandra Theodore Holly Madison, who calls a mansion very cult-like in one shocking trailer. As DailyMail.com exclusively revealed, The Secrets of Playboy details how Hugh Hefner demanded orgies 5 nights a week, drugged women with leg spreader Quaaludes, and hosted weekly pig nights with ugly prostitutes. The reason why I think the mansion was very cult-like, this is a quote, The reason why I think the mansion was very cult-like looking back on it is because we were all kind of gaslit and expected to think of Hef as this really good guy, says Madison in the series. And you start to feel like, oh, he's not that what they say in the media. He's just a nice man. So Holly Madison, I wonder if they're going to share a picture of her. Holly Madison is the Playmates. I don't see a picture of her. There she is. That's Holly Madison. If you guys remember The Girls Next Door, Holly Madison, she was one of the 3 main girlfriends. I think Holly, Kendra, and I'm sorry that I forget the other one. But yes, that was her. All right. So it's interesting that she's spilling so much tea about Hugh Hefner. Continued on. Madison, now 42, moved into the Playboy mansion in 2000 at age 21 and went on to become Hugh's main girlfriend. They dated from 2001 to 2008, and she says he refused to use protection during sexual relations. She admitted that at one point she began to feel suicidal, but starring in the reality TV series The Girls Next Door gave her self-esteem back. It was so easy to get isolated from the outside world there, she explains. You had a 9 o'clock curfew. You were encouraged not to have friends over. You weren't really allowed to leave unless you were like a family. It was like a family holiday. Theodore, now 65, details how there was group sexual relations at the mansion 5 nights a week, which broke me like you break a horse. Hugh, I think Theodore was one of his ex-girlfriends. I think we read, yes. Hugh was also he would also host pig nights, weekly pig nights, during which he would bring in a dozen of ugly prostitutes to have sexual relationships with his friends. VIP members of the Playboy nightclubs would also do what they please, including revered Soul Train host John Cornelius, who allegedly held 2 Playboy bunnies hostage and raped one of them, according to the docuseries. Wow. Okay, let's take a look at this docuseries because this sounds interesting. And it might be a good preview for, if this is something you want to check out.
There was a side of Playboy that nobody wants to talk about. He was an advocate for sexual freedom and the First Amendment.
And he really did believe he owned these women. There's some things that I never saw the light of day.
I didn't realize that getting into the Playboy world was a dangerous choice.
He didn't want people to know what was really going on.
I have extensive electronic equipment in the house, which includes videotape equipment. Sometimes things happen in the bedroom.
It was a beautiful world. It looked that way, but it was really ugly.
When you get someone that powerful, anything could happen. Anything.
I wouldn't take places with anyone else in the world.
His legacy should comprise the whole story.
The people who are really there, they're the ones who know the real truth.
The Secrets of Playboy. All right. So I believe they said that this was already out. So it premieres when? I think it premieres today. So if that's something you would like to check out, that's something that sounds interesting, to know the truth behind the Playboy. And yes, January 24th, so it is today. And the reason why it's important to educate yourself even on raunchy things like this is because these are things that are continuous traps, for young people, especially the naive girls who get so ensorcelled by flashy things like purses and expensive things. And it can happen with things like this, whether with somebody who's very influential. And back in the early thousands, when the Girls Next Door, this is how crazy it is. I was watching the Girls Next Door, and this was already being normalized in our society. But you have culture kind of developing around that, and it becomes normalized, glamorized, and then once you get on the other side, it's like, oh, this sucks. It's literally a dark world. You feel empty. It's just not whatever it plays out as a facade to be at face value. So anyway, great type of series. I am interested in watching that. All right, let's pivot on to the next story. 9 people arrested in an undercover human trafficking operation in Memphis. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation reported the arrests of 9 human trafficking suspects over the weekend after conducting an undercover operation in Memphis. TBI says the 2-day operation included help from its human trafficking unit, the Memphis Police Department, Homeland Security Investigation, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Shelby County District Office. Officers played decoy advertisements on websites linked to prostitution and commercial sex in Memphis, according to TBI. Now 9 men are booked into the Shelby County Jail on trafficking charges. TBI says 6 weapons, 9 vehicles, and thousands of dollars in cash to illicit drugs were seized as a result of the arrest. Several victims of human trafficking were also offered assistance. So that's typically also, I'd love to hear an after post report of these human trafficking rescues, because we always hear these headlines on human trafficking victims are offered assistance, or there were 5 rescued, but then we never know what happens afterwards. Were they rescued and put in a shelter? Were they rescued and given resources to rehabilitate and aftercare? What happens to these survivors or these victims? That's important. Next story coming from Daily Express, and this is based out of, or the story is based out of Trinidad and Tobago. 27 Venezuelan women are rescued, and it says police have busted a human trafficking ring with the rescue of 27 young Venezuelan women. Acting Police Commissioner McDonald Jacob has confirmed. Speaking to the Express by phone on Saturday, the country's top cop said human trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar business and a high-class bandits are involved. According to the information from the Trinidad and Tobago police, the investigation of one female Venezuelan national who was reportedly trafficked led to the rescue of 26 others, some who are 16 years old. So there were some children rescued. Let me give you guys a little bit of just a little bit of background of why this is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. So as you guys know, Venezuela is in its depths of its political rot, I guess you could say. So that socialism, communism has sort of taken over the country. So there are a lot of things economically, humanitarian wise that have happened that had made it very, very hard for people to live a regular life. And so with that being said, these young women, they get so desperate because I mean this genuinely, they get desperate because there's not a lot to eat. It costs like a fortune to get like a piece of cheese from the grocery store. And so when these traffickers target, you guys know, we've been talking about this on the Daily Traffic segment, these traffickers target vulnerable people, whether it is the most vulnerable in our society, whether that is young women or children. And so they target these people. And so if you would imagine there's nuances to vulnerabilities, these young women and children, these girls, they find themselves in situations where they can't feed themselves. It's hard to live a daily life in Venezuela. And so these traffickers will say, hey, I've got a perfect job for you. You get out of the situation. We leave the country. We will get you the best resources and you're going to live a normal life. Once again, remember Venezuela back then, you'll live just like that. So they say stuff like that, and then they'll lure them to another country. So then they find themselves in this type of trap where, they are essentially trafficked. The TTPS stated that the rescue operation was conducted by police officers of the counter-trafficking unit with the assistance of officers from the Immigration Division, Garden Emergency Branch, and Interagency Task Force. On December 31st, 2021, the rescue operation, which was conducted at the Pierre Road Felicity area, also led a rescue of 26 other female Venezuelan nationals who may also have been trafficked and procured for prostitution, stated the TTPS. During the operation, several persons were interviewed and several times were seized, which would help progress the ongoing investigations. All right. So good that they are rescued and that Trinidad, I hope that Trinidad and Tobago can grant them asylum. That's the best thing I could say. Getting asylum in Trinidad and Tobago, and they have a justified case. I don't think that, I think that we have cheapened the word of asylum here in the United States because of what's going on in our borders. We have so many people coming from different countries that are not necessarily like war torn, or they're not necessarily impoverished to the point where they need to flee the country, if you understand. But Venezuela, I can say, if it's anybody from Venezuela, I would say grant their case of asylum. Those people genuinely have the case for asylum. So I hope that Trinidad and Tobago will grant them asylum and get them some care. All right, the next story coming from the Telegraph. Romanian traffickers grooming girls as young as 10 to work as child prostitutes in the UK. That's right, in the UK. I know some of you guys are listening to me from the UK. So listen to this. Romanian sex traffickers are grooming girls as young as 10 years old in school playgrounds and forcing them into prostitution in the UK, according to a shocking new documentary. Using the so-called Loverboy method, which is in American terms, because this is a UK-based article. So in American terms, this is Romeo pimping. This is what they're talking about. So using the so-called Loverboy method or Romeo pimping, recruiters target vulnerable youngsters, convincing them in a relationship before exploiting them. Operating in schools across Romania, the traffickers are believed to have targeted hundreds of young girls who are later brought to the UK and put to work in the sex industry. I have talked to you guys what the Loverboy method or the Romeo pimping method is like. And for just a crash course, it's basically a pimp who will target a vulnerable victim based on needs or low self-esteem. They will romance and ensorcel them, love bomb them with gifts, and get them thinking that, oh, we're a match, love you, I'm your boyfriend, and this is what we're gonna. But I need you to do this for me, and then that's where they get in the life to do the things that they do. Iana, where was I? Iana Matei, who runs a shelter in Romania for children who have been trafficked for sex, told the BBC, the Loverboy method is the most horrible method of recruiting girls. There are recruiters in the schoolyards and they talk to girls. I have a 13-year-old girl, Daniela, right here, who is desperately trying to get back to her 52-year-old Loverboy. That's right, a 13-year-old who is so psychologically trauma bonded. She's trying to get back to the 52-year-old exploiter, abuser, groomer who had groomed her to think that she is in love with him. This is how bad psychological bondage is with these abusers. When she runs away and tells the police, I want to go to my Loverboy, he's 52 and I love him. The BBC claimed that when many of the girls were reported missing, the Romanian authorities failed to investigate properly. Detective Colin Ward from the Greater Manchester Police, who runs a specialist in modern slavery unit, said it was difficult to understand the scale of the problem. Hard to gauge the true picture, he said. Sex trafficking in the rife of UK, we don't have anywhere near the true picture of how many victims are here. It must be miles bigger than what we know already. People will have neighbors who are victims of sex trafficking. It's a lot harder for us because they could be anywhere. Romanian women in general have very little trust in the police. The experience they have with the police in their own country can be very poor. I've been doing this for 14 years now, and I can count on one hand how many victims had said, I'm a victim, I need help. We're not getting enough cases in court. So they are definitely, and this is happening in the UK, Romanian, they call them grooming gangs in the UK. But grooming gangs. But yes, this type of method is happening international. This is a very universal way to ensorcel and entrap a girl or anybody into the life of trafficking. Very, very sad. Very sad. This is happening. It's a psychological game to them as well. Oh, why is this so low? I need to fix this camera angle. Anyway, Anyways, guys, I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Nightly with Natalie. I almost forgot my segment. Nightly with Natalie, the Daily Traffic, Unravel with Natalie Denise. These are both segments of Unravel with Natalie Denise. I really appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, subscribing. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's broadcast. Please also be sure to subscribe to me on audio podcast and, recommend this audio podcast to somebody who wants to hear about trafficking news and other headlines. You all have a wonderful night. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Keem, for moderating for me always. I appreciate you too. I will catch you all in tomorrow's episode. Be well, stay blessed, and prayed up. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Unravel with Natalie Denise. Please give this podcast 5 stars.